אפשר להשם צדיקים יבואו גבול.
The daughters of Tzelophehed of the Menashe family, son of Hefer, son of Gilad, son of Mahir, son of Menashe, son of Joseph, came forward. They stood before Moshe, Eleazar the priest, the chieftains, and the whole assembly at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And they said, "Let not our father's name be lost to his clan just because he had no son. Give us a holding among our father's kinsmen." One of the topics of our Torah portion is a census and division of the land among the tribal clans of Israel. Genealogical lists of the members of the clans are one of the most unexciting components of the Torah. There are not many commentaries on them, and often they are overlooked and skipped. But at the same time, these lists represent extremely important documents, the only proof of identity and inheritance of our ancestors and of us. And this particular list fixates an actual turning point in the history, I dare to say, of our civilization, by simply saying, now Tzelophehed, son of Hefer, had no sons, only daughters. Up to this point in the Middle East history, only sons could inherit land from their fathers. And in this story, history is changed. Daughters of Tzelophehed come forward and petition Moshe, saying that if they don't inherit the land, the name of their father will be lost. Please notice that they are not concerned with their own well-being. They are not asking for the land for themselves. They notice that this law, in the form it existed, was unjust to their father. His name was going to disappear from history, and he was not going to receive the portion of the land. Jewish tradition places great importance on a person being remembered after death. When a righteous person passes away, it is customary to add the following phrase after mentioning the deceased name: Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may the memory of the righteous person be a blessing. So too, when referring to an indisputably evil person, it is customary to say Yimach Shemo, may his name be erased. That is why we have to understand the magnitude of the petition of Moshe to God when Israelites before made a golden calf. He said, "Forgive their sins, but if not, erase my name from the record that you have written." The disappearance of the name is one thing that cannot be undone. And this is the last resort for Moshe to sacrifice the memory of him. Daughters of Tzelophehed, they do exactly the opposite. Today, thousands of years later, we remember the name of Tzelophehed better than the names of any other leaders from this genealogical list. But by doing such a great honor to their father, the names of the daughters, Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milcha, and Tirza, are also documented and recited today, as I'm standing here, in the 21st century. And they are the only women on this list that are mentioned because they came forward. And can you imagine how difficult that must have been to stand in front of the whole congregation of Israel and request such a big change? Recognizing that this request was a powerful challenge to the community's tradition, Moshe brings this case before God, and God replies, "The plea of Tzelophehad's daughter is just. You should give them a hereditary holding among their father's kinsmen, transfer their father's share to them." And furthermore, God establishes a whole series of new laws regarding the situation when there is no male heir, as if he was inspired by the feedback that the daughters of Tzelophehed gave him. Few aspects of the story really stand out. First of all, of course, is the courage and dedications of the daughters of Tzelophehed. The second is that Moshe did not attempt to rule on his own in this matter. He did not try to make an exclusive and private decision for this particular family, saying, in your case, we are going to do this and that. Instead, he made it public, despite the potential reaction of the community. Thirdly, Moshe is aware that some of the aspects of the law are not clear, and that some cases are not covered by the law. That is why he goes to speak to God. And from the divine perspective, that is also not an issue. Though God already revealed laws to Moshe, new laws regarding new situations can be added to them. God doesn't say, I already told you that only men can inherit from their fathers. Instead, he says, the plea of Tzelopheəhad's daughter is just. And spoiler alert, the law is going to be adjusted even more in the future. In the chapter Maaseh, clan of Joseph will notice that if Tzelopheəhad's daughters are going to marry people from a different tribe, again the land will be absorbed by new owners, and God will say, the plea of the tribe of Joseph is just. This shows us that our ancestors of blessed memory had the freedom of will and the ability to decide for themselves, which distinguishes them from the fanatics and zealots who follow the orders without a doubt or any critical thinking. Israelite women and men petition Moshe, and Moshe petitions God in order to ensure justice and optimal functioning of the community. This inherited flexibility of the Jewish law presented to us in this parsha is a rather unique quality of our religion. We hold fast to our right to argue not only with the past decisions of our ancestors, but even with God. And finally, we read that right after the Holy One, blessed be He, finishes giving instruction about this inheritance laws of the land, in the case when there is no male hire, right after that, next thing he says to Moshe is, ascend these heights of Avarim and view the land that I have given to this Israelite people. When you have seen it, you too shall be gathered to your king, just as your brother Aaron was. God reveals to Moshe the time of his death. But what about Moshe's inheritance? What about his children and grandchildren? They're not mentioned. We actually know very little about his family, yet the name of Moshe is not erased from our memory. This dramatic connection and juxtaposition of laws of inheritance and the message about the death of Moshe symbolizes the everlasting care of God. Now, when all the issues with land inheritance are resolved, Moshe may join his ancestors, knowing that God is not going to erase his name from our memory. And may all our names be kept in the records of the Holy One, blessed be He, forever. And let us say, Amen.